What's up, guys? Sam Taggart here, and I help companies scale their sales, recruiting, and leadership. And in this video, we're going to dive into how to sell anything to anyone. If you haven't checked out some of our other videos, hit the subscribe button today because we've got thousands of videos on sales and all sorts of stuff. So if you're somebody who's struggling with selling, first principle right now, you don't know how to solve their problem. So if you want to sell something, you first got to look at it like, I am selling somebody's problem. And I don't like to look at it as I'm a salesperson, I'm a professional problem solver. When you become a professional at anything, whether it's a violinist, an athlete, or a business person, you've got to think of it as like there might be a 10,000 hour rule to this. There might be this element of training and practice and study, because you can't put the profession next to your name until you've actually become a professional. So give yourself some grace if you're struggling at closing or you're struggling to sell like you want because you're maybe 6 months in or you're 6 days in. First off, professional problem solver. Now let's go into the solving of the problem. So in order to solve their problem, you got to first know what their problem is. How do I discover the problem? And how to sell anyone to anything is actually letting them sell themselves. Because people naturally want to buy, they don't want to be sold. And if you simply say, hey, I'm going to be a little curious, meaning I'm not trying to come out aggressive, I'm not trying to be forceful. I'm just like, hey, tell me a little bit more about what you're dealing with. Tell me why you're on this conversation. And you notice how most of my questions say, tell me, not have you done this, yes or no. I want to leave it as an open-ended question. And so an open-ended question can usually start with, when, why, who have you looked into? Why have you looked into them? What are you looking into? But the main question I like to ask in a discovery, so I'm going to give you guys like the number one question I like to ask. What is the point of being on this conversation, on this demo? Like, what's the point of you filling out this form? What are you trying to get at? So that we're both on the same page. And you want to finish this with like a ... because depending on your scenario is going to depend on a lot. So now the question is, we figured out what the point is, and usually it's going to uncover a few problems. Most people are going to give you what's called a surface level problem. What I really want to do is now associate the problem to the pain. So let's go dive into this, saying what pain is associated to this problem. So I've got this pain, and is the pain... It's going to start with just like, think of it as like a sliver, like in your foot. Now the sliver, if it stays there long enough, eventually you're going to be like, F this sliver, I need to get it out of my foot. So if I do not make the sliver hurt enough, I'm never going to see any action. I've got to do what I call drag them through this pain tunnel. And this is where salespeople struggle. And when you say, hey, I want to sell anything to anyone, if somebody has a pain great enough, like a nail in their forehead or a sliver in their foot, they're going to go to a doctor and say, I need to get this pain out of this. And they won't buy if they don't feel a great enough pain. Let's just use an example. I'm going to sell you a new roof. Well, they're looking at their roof and the roof looks fine from the naked eye, right? So they're like, oh yeah, it doesn't seem too bad. They also don't see water dripping into their inside. So for them, is there any pain associated? Absolutely not. For you, you're like, wait a minute, I saw a little teeny potential of a hole there, but it's like so small. Call that the sliver. So how do I build up this pain tunnel? Let me show you. So you're like, okay, this little teeny hole right here. Why is this so significant that we have to replace your entire roof? Yeah, why would I have to spend 20 grand on that? Like, let's just fast forward 60 days. With the sun, the elements hitting this, what ends up happening is it gets greater and greater. That's just how the fiberglass is built. So then the second that thing has any seal break, it then gives opportunity for water to infiltrate. As water starts to infiltrate, the first thing under your roof is the decking, or the underlayment, then the decking. As the felt gets wet, then it goes into the decking, and the deck starts to rot. So now as the wood starts to rot, decay, it's going to attract bugs, things like that. They're going to start eating that because they like moisture, right? So now the decking starts to rot. Now you've got a hole in the decking. So now you've got direct access for water to get into your attic. So we're going to go, here's the attic, and what's full of insulation? Have you ever seen wet insulation? Gross as hell. Do you ever go into your attic? No. Okay, so let's just fast forward a year, and there's been water dripping in here. Wet insulation would then turn into what? Mold. Okay, so now you've got mold in your attic. Mold then turns into what? Bad air. Bad air turns into what? Sickness. Sickness turns into what, right? And so then All of a sudden, water starts dripping down into your drywall. How much is your drywall? Now you got to paint the drywall, etc. See what I'm doing? I'm just going down this story of like, this little hole now is turning into your kids and family are sick. You have a drywall problem and a paint problem. And it's like, or we could just solve it right now and it's going to be X. So I'm using this power of saying, can I drag you through this pain? How annoying is it? I have to call a drywall company. They come and replace this whole patch because water's been leaking in. Pain. How much more money is it going to cost you to do this, this, this? Or we could fix it now. So there's a money problem. How much time does it take? Fix it now. How hard is it to call 6 companies? So how to sell anything to anyone comes down to your ability to go find a problem, create a pain big enough, and then go solve the problem. Well, matter of fact, I'm here chilling and we got this thing, a new roof, or we've got this program. Your ability to then say, wow, the value of my solution outweighs tremendously the value to your dollars and your inability to take action. So if I were to sum this all up, how to sell anyone to anything is first you got to be able to understand and discover what the problem is. And I found that there's too many poor listeners and too many poor question askers in sales. And you might be like, well, I'm good at that. I'm like, if you're not making money, then I would check in. Number 2, you have not put enough pain to their problem. And number 3, can you create so much value that no matter how you price your product or service, it seems so cheap to them. It's like, that's it? And that's when you knew you did a good job in selling. So if you got some value out of this, I hope that you guys, one, hit the subscribe button right now. And if you want deeper and more intimate sales training, get on the phone with us and click one of the links in the bottom and schedule a demo with D2D Experts, because we can teach you all sorts of tough stuff in sales, from our online academy to one-on-one coaching. We're here to help serve you guys. So we'll see you guys out in the next video though.